Lessons learned. That'll be the the theme throughout this year's offseason series. Today, I'm gonna air out a few grievances, specifically regarding Tyler Guyton, Mozzie Smith, and Micah Parsons. I'm also gonna touch on the salary cap situation and make sure that it's more widely understood than it is currently about how the Cowboys aren't cap strapped because of a certain one or two or few players' contracts and or potential contract situations. And then, of course, we're going to talk about what the Eagles taught us, what we learned from Super Bowl 59, and how that applies directly to the Cowboys moving forward, particularly as we look and begin the real draft prep with me, at least. Other guys who are not also part time, well, full time, really, for me, fathers of two. They got a little bit more time on their hands than I currently do, but that's okay, right? I'm blessed. I love the position that I'm in. And I'm just going to continue brick by brick making this thing happen. Okay. Lessons learned. The Poem series, part two, last year was just postmortem. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Okay. So if you're new here, I'm Lando. This is the Lando Show. And we together are sports below the surface. Let's go. No telling if you guys are watching this, there maybe you probably saw my reel. My link tree is up at the top right corner here, by the way. If you're interested in following me on short form video platform, right? Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, even. Obviously, you're already on YouTube right now, but I'm constant. I'm constantly engaging with other people and trying to constantly learning, right? Trying to learn, trying to teach, trying to inspire, just trying to move forward progressively. Okay. So you can catch me over there on all those. But if you saw the Instagram reel that I posted here, an hour or so ago, roughly, I've been troubleshooting technology. So all that to say, and this is really not important, but we're going to talk about it anyways, because this is my show and the Lando Clown Show, I guess, goes on. The video might cut out, but don't worry. As long as the audio is good, we're chilling. My Osmo Pocket 3 here. I cannot figure out for the life of me why this is the video that you're seeing right now. It's coming directly from that hardware. After a few minutes, inexplicably, on every streaming service that I try, OBS, Restream, StreamYard, it kicks me and goes back to my webcam. Anyway, if you see the video switch or cut off completely, don't worry. We're just going to continue business as usual, and we'll work through it. Tyler Guyton. Okay, I'm going to tie all this in, and it's going to make sense here in a second. We need to make sure that we're not getting ahead of ourselves when we spew things unnecessarily so in his direction. A couple things to think about. Tyler Guyton is still not in his grown man body yet. It's very clear, very obvious. Tyler Guyton started 14 games in his college career at tackle. Prior to 2022, he didn't even play on offense. He played a little bit of tight end, a little bit of defensive tackle, a little bit of defensive end, right? He was an athlete. They're trying to figure out what to do with him. Tyler Guyton in year one at left tackle. So there's definitely a bit of a learning curve there. That was widely discussed and widely understood, which makes the backlash interesting considering we all kind of knew what to expect, right? The growing pains were inevitable. I know we talked about that here. I know countless others just like me did the same thing. But the real pot sweetener, or the kicker, I guess I should say, in this particular instance here, as it pertains to Tyler Guyton, is he was in year one learning a new position, still a spring chicken, still in his not grown man body, with a coaching staff who didn't have time to worry or stress themselves out about bringing him along. He was dealt an unfair shake, man. He didn't, you know, the odds were stacked against him from the jump. And the fact that this particular coaching staff was all on 1-year contracts, they didn't have time for liabilities. And that's what he was. We saw Mike Solari even try to pretend like he wasn't going to be the starter, that Chuma Edoga was going to start, halfway through. They were playing this semantics game. Try to keep it, questioning or keep people guessing about who was actually going to start for the Cowboys at left tackle in game one against Myles Garrett. So you could tell from the jump, from the get-go, Mike Solari wasn't deeply invested in developing this player. But on top of that, we can also tell there's hard evidence over more than 1 year, multiple year stretch outside of Tyler Guyton. Were guys really developing? We could talk about Hoffman, we could talk about Bass all we want to. But the reality is, Cowboys fans, I think, also in the same conversation here, have to quit overvaluing their own players. Okay, nobody has seen T.J. Bass or Brock Hoffman start for this team in meaningful games more than 5-6 games in a season. But all of a sudden, and the reason why I should have prefaced this, that's why this is airing out the grievances in regards to these people here. Because the most polarizing conversation right now happening in Cowboys country is whether or not the Cowboys should even think about drafting an offensive lineman or another trench player, either side of the ball, really. There's a lot of fans out there that are openly admitting, that are having all kinds of Twitter beefs and conversations and you name it about just how frustrated that they would be if that were the case. And in fairness to those people, I'll grant you that, yes, the Cowboys are absolutely desperate for skill position talent. But you better pay attention to what we just saw on Super Bowl 59 and to what ain't going away anytime soon with what Howie Roseman and the rest of that Eagles front office has put together. And that division rival up there in Philadelphia. I'm gonna leave that there because I'm gonna add to that in just a second. Just starting off with Tyler Guyton and Mozzie Smith, and the reason why Mozzie is also included here, because in my opinion, that's part of the fan frustration when, or just even at the mere mention of taking another offensive or defensive lineman with the Cowboys' first round pick, 12 overall. But my thing is, especially after what we just saw, but even without that, right? Forget what we just saw in Super Bowl 59. Don't let the PTSD of two guys who didn't pan out as quickly as you wanted them to deter you from allocating resources and structuring your team properly. The widely regarded and almost undisputed most talented skill position player that the NFL world has ever seen, right? The guy who's up there in the conversation with Tom Brady as the best quarterback of all time, the most important position in all of sports, had one of the 10 worst EPAs per dropback in the last decade. I'm going to play a clip for you guys really quick, just for context here, because it's that important. All right. I think you guys are going to appreciate this perspective. This is from, let me get to my messages here. I hope you guys can see this. This is from, where is it? Robert of The Athletic. His conversation with Derek Klassen.
And that's not even the worst stat.
And their recap of the Super Bowl and what happened. Just this is how bad Patrick Mahomes was. And just be clear that this is not me poo-pooing on Pat Mahomes. Okay. It's much less so that. It's not that at all, actually. And it's much more so a credit to the Birds and what they have put on, how they have assembled their roster and what they put on tape yesterday. It was masterful. It was complete and utter domination. It was a dismantling of the dynasty of this decade and likely beyond. Check this out.
At halftime of this game, per Next Gen Stats, Mahomes had negative 1.36 EPA per dropback. That probably doesn't mean anything. If you look at every NFL game that has happened in the past 5 years, it was the 10th worst first half any quarterback has had. On that list, we have 2 Davis Mills starts. We have a Will Grier start. We have a PJ Walker start. And you pointed this out to me in real time. We had the Sam Darnold's I'm seeing ghost game against the New England Patriots. Even if you thought this was going to be a tough road for Mahomes in this offense against Vic Fangio in this defense, that sort of outcome is unfathomable. You can't, and that's not even
unfathomable is right. I hope you guys could hear that audio. Surely you can. If not, it's on my Twitter. You've got my link tree right up there at the top. Just go watch it because it's mind blowing. But the reason why I wanted to highlight that today is part of, it was ammunition for this project here. That skill position talent, guys. And I'm a Texas fan. You go look up, type in the Lando Show, the Texas Trench Tragedy. It's a project from a couple years ago, I believe in 2022, where I really just detailed and highlighted why there was so much consistent hype built around Texas, but even more consistent letdowns to follow. And there goes the connection. So bear with me here. I'm just going to unplug this real quick, plug it right back in, and we should be good to go. Hit the ground running. Come on now. Now, where were we? Let's get it back to this one. Stop sharing that. Okay, mic check. Here we go. I don't even remember what I was trying to say. Okay, let's just go back to the FaceTime camera so this quits happening, guys. Apologies. Promise you it'll be worth it to stick with me. We'll get through it. Fail forward, baby. Fail forward. That's what we talk about all the time on my Holy Dad account. Patrick Mahomes himself, the greatest, the seemingly undisputed greatest quarterback the world has ever seen, put up a top 10 worst performance in terms of EPA per dropback in the last 5 years. They're with the likes of the Sam Darnold seeing ghosts game against the Patriots. And the likes of Davis Mills times 2. The likes of PJ Walker. The likes of Will Grier. That's how bad it was. Why? Because the Chiefs' offensive line was completely overwhelmed. The Eagles' defense, not only did they not allow the Chiefs to cross midfield until I believe it was 2 minutes and change left in the third quarter, before the greatest quarterback we've ever seen, arguably, in the dynasty of the decade, before they crossed midfield. I had another project that I posted last night where I just went back to the ESPN app, guys. A simple, everybody's got the ESPN app on their phone. Most people do, if not everybody. 99.9% of the population in this country. You can toggle through the play-by-play. And it tells you exactly what happened, who did what, and the outcome of each play. The Chiefs' first 4 possessions, they ran the football once. 1 attempt. So their entire opening game script, I mean, like I said in the project, that tells me, it told me, I can't speak for certain. I'm obviously not in the room. I don't know. I can't. It's speculation. But they knew going into that game that they were dead before the opening kickoff ever even occurred. Beaten before they ever stepped foot into that stadium. The Eagles defense, they sacked Patrick Mahomes 6 times and they hit him 10. You know how many times in those two, those occasions there, they blitzed to do so, get home? Goose. So in other words, their front 4, okay, they were dropping 7, bringing 4. In those instances, I should probably have checked the statistics as to how many times Vic Fangio elected to blitz. I know it's not many. I mean, until things were really out of hand, you can just send everybody if you want to. But, you get the point, right? It's their front 4, in other words, was whipping the Chiefs' front 5. Overwhelming them to the point to where Patrick Mahomes looked like one of the 10 worst quarterbacks in the last 5 years. So tie this into Dak Prescott conversation if you want to. His teams have never been able to run the football in the postseason. At least, in recent history, right? The Packers, certainly the 2 49er games, they ran it well against the Bucs. And you got, a QB rating of 105. But, that's just this is the ultimate team sport, guys. That's what I'm getting at. I'm not going to sit here and waste everybody's time with unnecessary comparison jargon of, who's your favorite quarterback, right? That's not why I'm here. The point is, Patrick Mahomes isn't as bad as he showed yesterday. But he is if his team can't also support him by running the football. Same is true for Dak. Same is true for any other quarterback. When you're one-dimensional, especially against a defense like that on that stage, you got no chance. Moving on. Micah Parsons. This will be short and sweet. Mike Fisher often mentions him and Ed Werder and maybe one other member of Cowboys media. He's the longest tenured beat writer. Let's just put it that way. Ed Werder, he's been around for 40 years. Okay. Nobody knows the Joneses outside of he's one of the handful of people that, without the last name Jones, that knows that family better than anybody else on this planet. He often mentions that the Cowboys are a marketing team that, just so happens to sometimes play football on the side. I'm 30 years old. I thought that was crazy when all the old heads, the guys in my life who were around for the dynasty Cowboys, the glory days, if you will, they all were telling me these things, or this is This is jargon that I was hearing at water cooler conversation talk, right? Or on the golf course or wherever. Until Jerry's gone, the Cowboys will never be good again. They'll never win or get to the big game. And the reason why they say that, and so the point is, the older I get, and now since those days, this has become my living. This is my profession. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I love. This is what I do. Studying this team, it blows my mind how accurate they are when they say that. And when Mike Fisher so cleverly highlights it. A marketing team that sometimes plays football on the side. I mean, how else are you the most valuable sports franchise in the world? If you don't major in marketing, people got to know who you are. You got to stay in the headlines. You got to keep people talking. And that's what Jerry Jones is quite literally the best in the world at. Really good owner. Amazing owner. Hall of Fame owner. Jerry Jones has his fingerprints all over almost everything that we know, like the NFL to be as a collective today. He's made countless other owners billionaires. Not just himself. But the most valuable sports franchise in the world claims that title by manipulating the media. Lessons learned, guys. This is the series. This is one of the things that I've learned, one of the lessons that I've learned in my time covering this team closely. Very short time, but time nonetheless. Years worth. Probably 4 to 5 years taking pride in being in the know, staying informed, like studying up on the people who are that I'm in their line of work now, right? The guys that I respected, listening to the things they say, doing my own research, growing, right? Or behind the scenes. It's the world we live in. So all that to say, and forgive sports below the surface. That's what I do. I talk a lot, sometimes too much, but that's all right. Micah Parsons isn't getting traded, guys. But you bet your behind that Jerry Jones is going to do everything in his power to make you and everybody else believe that they might. Why? Headlines, clicks, views, dollars. Primetime, baby. Cowboys have 7 primetime games every year. Most other teams have 3 if they're lucky. So I've seen some questions, and I don't know if it's just the people who it always feels like the people who are the most off base with their analysis are sometimes the loudest voices. There's no world where recouping 2 first-round picks, which, if we're being honest about it, are shots in the dark at best. Just look at the bust rate, guys. We did this exercise last year. Just from the quarterback position alone, the position that teams study the closest and invest the most money in and the most draft capital. I forget the exacts, but paraphrasing myself, I did the work. I put the time in. The last, I don't know what it was, 10 some odd years of quarterbacks selected in the first round. There was like, I think the number was 27 or 28 total first round quarterbacks selected. Maybe it was the last 5 years. I think dating back to 2017. I don't know. But it was like a 30% hit rate of quarterbacks that were taken in the first round, whatever time period it was that I looked up. 30% made it to their second contract. So either 4 or 5 years and then signed a contract extension with the team that signed them. You've got a multi-generational talent in Micah Parsons. Nobody sees more double teams. Nobody pressures the quarterback more than he does. He hasn't ended up with the most sacks the last few years, but Micah Parsons stands alone on every pass rush graph or chart that you can find. You don't just piss that away because you think, let me just say, as an organization, you don't trade that player. Period. As a fan base, you don't lobby for trading that player unless you've been brainwashed by the very front office and 2 particular men who have floated this storyline in the first place. Brainwashed. There are mainstays into this platform and into this channel, the Lando Show, Sports Below the Surface. One of which, and you can already find it, this project has already been posted. It was a singular topic this time last year, roughly. The salary cap is fake. Lando, what do you mean by that? Jerry Jones, in fact, I mentioned earlier, he's got his fingerprints all over most of the NFL as we know it today, including making countless other owners billionaires in the process. Jerry Jones helped invent the salary cap. That's a fact. So when I say that the salary cap is fake, it's wordplay. But let me explain it in its simplest terms. What I mean, the salary cap in the future is always real. Okay? But the salary cap today does not exist. All right? And I have something that's going to, once again, be further context. Hopefully it's going to help you guys. Sorry, Robert. Understand this a little bit deeper. Okay? This was from February 4th. I did another rendition of the cap-strapped fallacy on how the Jones boys have brainwashed their fans into thinking that they don't have enough money. It's absolute horse trash. Crap. All right. Cap strapped. Here we go. Even though, let me make sure I shared this screen, y'all. Hold up. I did not. See, look at me catching myself slipping. All right. Should be able to hear it now. The Cowboys aren't going to acquire T. Higgins or Myles Garrett, okay? But it's not going to be because they can't. The situation is not an issue. I'm going to prove it to you. Right? Let me show you guys something right here real quick. This box that you're seeing, this is Dak's contract situation, okay? Those 3 cute little orange boxes down there at the bottom. They're called void years. Same thing right here for CeeDee Lamb. Those void years are flexibility. It's a built-in loophole that actually the Joneses themselves helped create. Okay, so when people tell you that the Cowboys can't sign players because they're cap-stricken, they're wrong. And just like what happened when they extended Dak and CeeDee this past offseason, when they extend Micah Parsons, that's also going to create cap space. Believe it or not, I know it's a hard concept to comprehend, especially when you got people on TV telling you that they're not, that it's not possible, that they are in trouble, that they can't sign people. Don't listen to those people because it's just not true. The salary cap, I can't tell you how many times I've said this, but I'll just, like I said, I'll keep mentioning it until I feel that it's no longer necessary. The salary cap is much more an accounting principle than it is any sort of hard team building structure or restriction. To get Myles Garrett, though, it has nothing to do with that they can, but it's just that they're not going to give up 2 first-round picks. T. Higgins is a little bit different. So you won't have to trade for him. He's on an expiring contract, so you can just sign him, in theory. Stop listening to the lies and follow me if you want the truth. Tell a friend to tell a friend. So there you go. There you have it. Read it and weep. Let me just, I guess, elaborate just a tad on that. Really, all you got to understand, and I'll dedicate some more time to this soon, but we're already going pretty long here, so I'm gonna cut to the chase. Void years is really all you got to know. Teams can take money. Jerry Jones also invented void year, by the way, or he helped invent it. So it's almost like a loophole, guys. That is leveraging the loophole that's already pre-established and built into the contract. You move that money, you push it down further down the line, and you got to pay for it later. But then the beauty of it is, guess what? The salary cap continues to climb, roughly 5 to 10%, sometimes 15% every single year, because of people like Jerry Jones keeping the Cowboys relevant, whether they deserve to be or not. Okay, and with that, we can also expound and take it a step further, right? And discuss how the very team that we all just watched completely dismantle the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59, the team that's in your division, the team that is, if we're being real, they're the gold star, the North Star, I guess I should say, of the NFC in the last decade. How is it when if all have the same amount of money to spend, right? There's a cap on what you can allocate to your roster any given season. And it's the same for all 32 teams. How is it that the Eagles in free agency have, and this is just one example, there are many more, but have doubled up the Cowboys, spent twice as much money. I think in the last 10 years, the Eagles have spent over $700 million in free agency for an average of about $90 million a year. The Cowboys, on the other hand, have spent about $380 million in free agency for an average of about $30 million per year. So they're getting doubled up. All right. How is it that Howie Roseman can afford to pay Saquon Barkley $37 million, a running back who most thought was a devalued position? Clearly, the pendulum has swung back in favor of physical personnel and bigger personnel and a more physical play style on both sides of the ball. That's another topic that we're going to be talking about very soon. I already touched on it on Twitter, but they can do that. They can pay Saquon $37 million. But the Cowboys can't even pick up the phone to call Derrick Henry. He played for $8 million this year, by the way. The Cowboys can create $100 million of cap space, guys. Let me just, I'm not even going to pull it up. You guys can look it up if you want to. Spotrac.com. Just type in Dallas Cowboys. It'll give you their entire financial situation. You can look at it. It's right there for you to see. And no, it is not the end-all be-all. It's not 100% accurate, but it's very, very close, if not spot on. All you do is you move a little bit of Dak's money from this year, you backload it to one of those void years. You move a little bit of CD's money from this year and next if you want, right? Both cases. Throw it back a few years into those void years. You pay the piper then. Micah Parsons, due, I think, $24 million right now. You extend him. Well, guess what? You got more flexibility. More years on his contract means more loopholes to exploit, to hide that money on later years down the line. right? You can pay somebody $10 million annually, quote unquote, but have them on the books for $1 million if you want to. 2-year deal, $10 million. Pay them $1 million this year, $9 million next year. If you want. There's also loopholes. You guys are probably familiar, or some of you are familiar with the post June 1 cut, what that does, and why it's no different, guys. It's a loophole that teams can exploit to save or create money. You get 2 post June 1 designations every offseason. You can cut somebody that's going to have a lot of dead money if you part ways with them. So either you keep them on your roster and you pay them $20 million, or you just go ahead and cut them and then you pay you pay them $10 million. So you save $10 million and then you also you just got to pay 10 more the rest of it next year. Right? So it's a loophole. It's called the post June 1 cut, right? There's some talk about the Cowboys saving a few million dollars by post June 1 cutting Terrence Steele. The salary cap tomorrow is real. The salary cap today is fake. Does not exist. More on that very soon. Before we move on to what exactly that we learned, and that's what we're going to close with here, I just wanted to go ahead and remind you guys, I think as of right now, the tentative plan, and this is very fluid once again, like I said, if you're new, following me in my channel, I am a father of 2 baby girls that are ages 2 and under right now. So my schedule is very fluid, and I'm with them full time on Mondays and Thursdays. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays, they go to school. And then Fridays are a coin flip, depending on how busy my wife's work schedule is on that particular Friday. So I got, let's just call it 2.5 free days per week where the Lando show gets my full and undivided attention to where I can actually produce content all day and not just when they're sleeping and trying to rush through things, right? So Tuesday, we'll have a pre-recorded video like this. Tuesday night, we'll go live. Same thing Wednesday, we'll have a small pre-recorded video or 2 or 3. And Wednesday night, we'll go live. And then the same thing on Friday. We'll be live on Friday nights. So that's where you can catch me. And then the link tree will take you to the other piece of content that I put out on short form in between. So that's how you keep up with me. That's the schedule right now that we're going to roll with. So let's hope that we can stick to it. And I'm going to do the best that I can too, so that you guys know when and where to expect me, because I'm very well aware that matters. Okay. If you want to support the channel, there's a couple ways to do that. When I'm live, you can obviously super chat. That's one way to help me continue to grow in this space and in this. I'm watching Luka over here right now. Sorry if you keep seeing my eyes pan over. I'm just kind of trying to keep track of his debut with the Lakers. But I do also have Cash App and Venmo if you want to support me that way, if that's easier. And on top of that, with the Cash Apps and Venmos, I will be doing I might lump it into all 3, right? I'll do kind of like a raffle style where I'll put all the names from all the donations from. I plan on doing like once every 2 months, so like maybe a bi-monthly. Maybe it's a 2 time. I don't know exactly what my funds, my giveaway funds look like right now from Waggle this year, but I'll have to look through some of that. But I'll do a raffle style where every donation, your name gets put into a pot, and I'll just draw a winner a couple times throughout the year, a few times maybe. And we'll do a Waggle bundle giveaway where I'll basically just, the winner, I'll live stream it with the drawing, and then the winner gets a custom Waggle bundle, whatever they want from Waggle in bundle form. through me and courtesy of Waggle. So that's one of the things that we also tentatively planning on doing. And that's going to happen, right? Like I said, I just don't know how frequently. So, but my Venmo is Landon Holyfield, LANDON HOLIFIELD. And then my Cash App is $ Landon Holyfield. So pretty simple. But if you can't do that, like I always tell y'all, man, that the best way to really help me grow is just to hit that like button. That's it. That's it. So what we learned, the lesson learned in closing, is that you better not be so close-minded and traumatized by Mozzie Smith and Tyler Guyton from your two most recent first-round picks at the O-line and D-line positions. You can't just say screw the trenches because it burned you once or twice. Otherwise, it don't matter who you got playing quarterback. It will not matter. You got to be able to hang up front, okay? And so whatever the best player is that the Cowboys have on their board at 12, if they take another offensive lineman or another defensive lineman, you got to trust that because there's actually a very, very high hit rate with Cowboys selecting offensive linemen in particular in round one, dating back to, call it 2010, or I guess whenever Tyron Smith was drafted. What year was that? Golly, man, my head is spinning. Was Tyron 2011? No, he was 13. Was he 13? Somebody's getting triggered right now. I'm sorry, guys. Pull it up right here. 2011. Okay, I was right. I should have trusted the first instinct, but this team does that very well. Needless to say, and we still got Duke Manyweather, that is, incredibly responsible for a ton of that growth in its own right. But now, here's the pot sweetener. And not only is the league evolved, the pendulum is swinging back now in favor of you better be able to run the football. It's a constant chess match between offensive and defensive personnel, offensive and defensive styles. Now it's getting back to a more physical game as a whole. But with the Cowboys, bringing in Clayton Adams and just really the entire roster that Coach Schottenheimer is putting together with his coaching staff. This is guys who have a long history of not only being innovative, but priding themselves in physically and creatively running the football. Connor Riley from Kansas State coming in now, too. So not only do you have a head coach that wants to run the football, you even got your dang front office philosophically agreeing with what I'm saying right now. They're even saying that. Stephen Jones has been loud about that. We have to solve the run game. That's what Brian Schottenheimer is about, largely. Jerry Jones, by the way, saying that this is a risky. That's complete and utter BS. It is the safest, most complacent Cowboys comfortable way it's the same old stuff, guys. Now, but don't misquote me when I say that, because I definitely do really like Brian Schottenheimer as a coach. I just hate the process, like I mentioned when it happened. I hate the process of being there. They didn't even think about calling other more qualified or bigger name candidates. So Brian Schottenheimer can coach. And everywhere he's been, his teams have run the football very well when he was a play caller. So that's what Schotty's about. That's what Clayton Adams is about. Got some fun stuff coming up in that regard. About why the Cowboys, even if they don't go out of their way to address the trenches, which they should, and they're going to be much more efficient running the football this year, regardless of who's carrying the ball, regardless of who's blocking for the guy carrying the ball, regardless of who's playing quarterback. It's going to be better. So that's a win. But now, not only do you have one offensive line coach on your staff that's, he'll have the title of offensive coordinator. That's Clayton Adams. But now you get another offensive line coach to actually coach the offensive line, who also has a long history of proving that he knows how to run the football. Kansas State, just in his tenure, go back and look it up. Every single year in, year out, they are amongst the top in the country. Can't wait to take another victory lap on Deuce Vaughn too at some point. That's been one of my. I've been one of the very few that stood firm on his behalf, but I can't wait for that to validate itself here pretty soon. For me and for Deuce, honestly, because I've taken a lot of crap too, and I know he has as well. I ain't worried about my feelings though, but he doesn't deserve to be talked about the way that he is, and he doesn't deserve to be just considered a foregone conclusion that he's ineffective or can't play in this league. Couldn't be further from the truth, and we're going to see that soon. Imagine Ashton Genty and Deuce Vaughn. Bring back Rico Dowdle if you want to. I mean, that's going to be a fun backfield. Okay. So you better solve some of your run game issues, and it seems to me that the Cowboys are doing that. So that's full circle here. I guarantee you, the fact that there are two people with a very strong voice now in that war room and on that staff, two offensive linemen, on top of Brian Schottenheimer, who we know what his background is. There will be a deliberate plan and purpose to run the football creatively and effectively. It will be nuanced, and it will be married to the passing game, unlike that of Mike McCarthy. Brian Schottenheimer has delegated responsibility, guys. He has gone outside of his comfort zone, unlike the Joneses, and brought in decorated but up-and-coming guys who, in theory, could threaten his position in the very near future. Go back and listen to all, Phoenix area, just Arizona sports media when the Cowboys poached their beloved Clayton Adams from them. They were devastated. They were distraught over that. So that was a big deal. Clayton Adams is going to be a head coach in this league, probably, very likely, very soon. So you got two guys that are going to be overseeing your offensive line now, developing these guys, bringing them along, and also masterminding alongside Brian Schottenheimer your running game. You better believe that offensive line is in play here, especially after they all sat, I imagine, in a room together watching what the Eagles did to the Kansas City Chiefs. There ain't no such thing as enough up front. And you can miss me with the Brock Hoffman and the Bass stuff. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. I'm not saying that I don't like them as players, and I'm not saying that you can't win with them. But what I am saying is that you better not be complacent in that regard. Because not a single soul has seen those guys start and be effective for an entire 16, 17 game season. So let's be clear about that. The last point I want to make is tying everything all together, okay? The lessons learned, not only about the salary cap, not only about the way that the pendulum is swinging back in favor of physicality, not only about what the Eagles just displayed and what the Cowboys better be preparing for. All of these things, it ties into the punchline of this project here. And it's that the trenches take longer to translate in this league. So it's part of preaching the patience with Guyton and Ozzie Smith. To write them off is completely foolish. Be frustrated all you want. I get that. You have every right to be. But after what we just watched, the way if the Joneses will do what they have the ability to do in free agency, restructure Dak Prescott's contract, backload it into the void years, restructure CeeDee Lamb's contract, backload it into the void years, extend Micah Parsons, then you can manipulate his money however you want to. You magically create $100 million in salary cap space in 2025. So what you do with that money, since the trenches take longer to translate, this wordplay here is crazy. You spend your free agent money. So on your veteran players in free agency, right? You spend in free agency in the trenches. Go get busy. Go get Trey Smith from the Chiefs to fill in for you at right guard. That's a tier 1 free agent offensive lineman. You re-sign Oso Odigizua. You bring him back. And then anything else on top of those two guys, you get frontline NFL starters, like, veterans in this league that you know what they're capable of. They're projects. The further away you get from the football, the faster you translate. Corners, receivers, running backs, safeties. It's just the way that it is. You can find those guys all over the place. Okay. There are guys that run 4.3s, hyper athletic, the small skill guys that are fast and athletic and NFL talent are in abundance. They come in abundance. There is a surplus all over the country. But the 300 plus pound guys who are also skilled and also as athletic, the NFL athletes that are 300 plus pounds are way fewer and farther between. So that's the point, right? It's just simple logic. Spend in free agency in the trenches. So that when you're on the clock at 12 and 44, it don't matter who falls to you. Double up at offensive line if you want. Yeah, you're going to piss some fans off, but those fans, I don't believe that they're viewing it from an appropriate lens if they are triggered by just the thought of an offensive lineman. That's a flawed way of thinking. But you go crazy. Spend, I think you got 9 picks now that you traded one away from Jonathan Mingo. See, I'm still in the early stages of all my study, but Tedero McMillan, Luther Burden, Ashton Genty, Tez Johnson in round 2 or 3, whatever. Go crazy. Take a running back, take a receiver, take a tight end. 3 consecutive skill position players selected from the Cowboys in the first 3 rounds of the draft if you want to. Those are going to translate more seamlessly than, another potential offensive lineman or defensive lineman. Would I love Kelvin Banks? Would I love Will Campbell? Would I love Mason Graham? Yep. You bet. But this is a very loaded defensive tackle class too. So maybe if there's one position you do fade, even though it's the position that the Cowboys have lacked for the longest time with the resources that they've allocated to the defensive tackle spot, right? Right now, as of today, right? That's part of the importance of re-signing Osa. If you don't do that, you have one guy that's played meaningful snaps of NFL football, and that's the guy that everybody hates right now, Mozzie Smith. 1 tech, 3 tech, it don't matter. Like Chauncey Golston, free agent. Osa Digizua, free agent. Linval Joseph, he's 50 years old. Jordan Phillips, don't even get me started. Like we saw how that went down. So he's not around anymore. You better spend some money in the trenches. And you better not continue lying to your fan base about not having said money too in the process of it. It's getting harder and harder to hide thanks to platforms like this one, people like me and countless others just like me. And then, of course, those of you who are watching this and supporting. Jerry Jones, y'all listen, pay attention. They went on the mic to introduce Brian Schottenheimer as the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and one of the first things that he talked about was, he was addressing the fan apathy. Talking about his comfort, basically. And then he tried to spin that Brian Schottenheimer was a massive risk. It's not a massive risk just because he's never been a head coach. It's the exact opposite of that because it's another comfort hire because he comes from within the organization already. Now, I do love him. Like I've already said, I don't have to go rehash this again. It was the process of getting to Brian Schottenheimer that I have the problem with, if I didn't make that clear earlier, which I'm pretty sure I did. I know I did. Got about 2 minutes left before I cut this thing. You spend in the trenches in free agency. And whatever the draft delivers to you, whoever falls to you, it's a cherry on top. And you be thankful. Go crazy at young, hyper athletic, skill position talent in the draft. I feel like I'm forgetting something that I wanted to make sure that I said, but that's all right. It's part of being a scatterbrained human being. This was fun. So tomorrow night, we're going to plan on 8 p.m. for live. Always subject to change. So make sure you're following me on Twitter for the fastest way to receive those updates. I'll be making those announcements if things have to get pivoted or switched out somehow, some way. But 8 o'clock live, we'll kind of be expanding on everything that we just talked about here. So with that, this has been the Lando Show with Sports Below the Surface, giving the fans the truth that they deserve about not just the Cowboys, not just the Texas Longhorns, but sports in general. Got a Luka piece, very proud of. not necessarily the production. I could have obviously taken much more time, adding all the fancy bells and whistles, but please check that out for the truth about the Luka Doncic trade if you haven't already. But remember, prayer changes things, guys, and the war is already won. Love y'all. Talk to you tomorrow.